We did projects where like it's the animation directors and the sound design students are going to be doing a project together. So we did a project that was just all about animation and sound. Then we would do a project all about animation and music, and another project that was like, how can you, what's an animation film idea that could come out of a production design idea. And that's actually where Head Over Heels started. That exercise was something we were doing with the production design students, and the task was basically they dumped a bucket of like postcards on the table, and you were just supposed to grab a few at random and look at the thing on the postcard and see if there was a spark there and kind of develop that into a concept for an animated film. And that's where Head Over Heels started, because I picked up this painting called The Philosopher in Meditation by Rembrandt. In that painting, there's a spiral staircase that kind of goes up backwards. You see the underside of the stairs. And in looking at it, I realized, oh, someone could be walking on the ceiling and walk down on the back side of those stairs while someone was walking up the front side. And it was like, well, that's an animated film. Two people, one on the ceiling, one on the floor. What do you do with that? And that was just supposed to be an exercise. But then when it came to the second year, and the second of the 2 years at NFTS, you spend the entire year on one project. Okay. And you kind of approach the school with 3 ideas, and they select the one of your pitches that they're going to produce.
Is Head Over Heels the one that you were like most inclined towards?
At first, no. I had this other idea that was very like Coen Brothers-y and like very dark, and like it was just going to all be about like things get bad, then worse, then really horrible, and just before it goes totally black, it just gets worse again. It was like one of those, and that appeals to some like inner part of my aesthetic sense. But I at the time was dating a girl who's now my wife, and I told her my ideas, and she really sparked to Head Over Heels, and she thought it was so sweet. And I could just tell that if I made the other movie, it was going to be a movie I was making for myself and not really for anyone else. So I kind of learned in that moment, I'm kind of a different filmmaker if I make a movie, depending on who I'm making a movie for. And I decided in that moment to make a movie for her, and it served me well.
Yeah, you should. She has good taste.
Yeah.
Your wife does.
The idea is you meet this husband and wife who live in a house together, but the husband's on the floor and all his stuff is on the floor, and the wife is on the ceiling. She's walking around on the ceiling. All her furniture's up on the ceiling. And so the idea was it's kind of a visual poetic metaphor about the way, especially later in life with a married couple, you get so used to living with each other, you kind of stop seeing each other and you start living separate lives. And it's something, I had just seen bits of that in older married couples that I knew. I mean, it's almost like casting aspersions to say my grandparents were like that. My grandparents weren't like that. They yelled at each other a lot, which I eventually realized was their way of saying, I love you and I see you and I remember that you're here. But a lot of people just get used to each other. And part of what I wanted to do was just blow up this idea we have from movies that love is something you fall into. It's true at a certain stage that you fall in love, and it is literally just like the force of gravity. You fall in love, you didn't have to do anything. But once that's finished, a loving romantic relationship takes a lot of work and effort and just a constant watering of the plant, And so this idea of a married couple that has sort of forgotten that, and they need to start making the effort to figure out a way to come together. That's kind of what the movie's about.
So that was a student project that you made with other students, and it was very well done. Tell us a little bit about how you got from your school in England to the Academy Awards.
It was 15 months in the making, and we had this film that we were very proud of, very happy with it, about 10 minutes long, which is on the long side for an animated film, but still felt like we had something good. And so then the next thing, once you have that film, is like everyone's coming out of school like, well, I want a job. And one way to get a job is to achieve some notoriety on the film festival circuit. And so that was the goal from the beginning, was just to send it out to a lot of film festivals. We, identified, the Academy is a good resource on this actually, because the Academy has given accreditation or I don't know what you call it exactly, but they have like certified certain festivals around the world as Academy qualifying festivals. And what that means is if you win the grand prize at that festival, you are now qualified to enter your film for the Academy Award. And you don't necessarily have to be going for the grand prize to use that list, because what that list also becomes then is like, this is a list of the most prestigious competitive film festivals in the world. And, so that's now something you can use as a little bit of an agenda of like, these are the film festivals we're going to prioritize, and we're going to send our film to those ones first, see how we do, then maybe drop down a tier after that. And so that was what we did. And along the way, picked up 3 qualifying prizes, one at Austin, one in Anima Mundi, which is in Brazil, and then another one at the Heartland Film Festival in Indiana. And that was great. So we were now qualified for an Oscar. So we submitted to the Oscars. So then once you're qualified, you're on the long list. Then at a certain point, the Academy does a preliminary pass at that, and they shorten it down to a short list. And then there we were on the short list. And then from there, they vote on which films from the short list to nominate. And then we were nominated, and it was amazing. And sort of one of those things where like, that morning we knew, okay, it's like, this is when they're going to announce it. And my wife, again, then girlfriend, now wife, was there with me when we were kind of like looking at just hitting refresh. And finally we saw, oh my gosh, the film was announced. It was really nominated. And she was like behind me kind of going, woo, woo, woo. But I was just like, I just hope they spelled my name right, because my name's always getting spelled wrong. So, but it was just one of those things where it's like, it kind of didn't hit me, didn't really like penetrate my head. It took some time for that to sink in, like, wow, that really happened. We're really going to go to the Oscars. And so we, got, I think most or all of the team that worked on the film, all those students got to go to the actual Oscars event. And it was, super cool. Like, I mean, what can you say? It was like, that was the year that Adele performed Skyfall at the Oscars. But yeah, it was really cool. I remember at one point being there. That was also the year that Jennifer Lawrence wore her big white dress, and I think she tripped on some stairs. That was kind of a memorable media moment. But I just remember, the reason I bring her up is that I was going back into the governor's ball, having gone to the bathroom, and I came back in to figure out, oh yeah, where were the people I was just talking to? And Jennifer Lawrence was on her way out as I was on my way in, and I did one of these, like to like look around her to say, hey, whoever you are, you're kind of in the way. I was looking for, and it was just like, it kind of sunk in for me, like, I just did that to Jennifer Lawrence. And so it was just very cool to like, for that magical night, be there with all of the glitterati of Hollywood. But the thing was, like, sinking in throughout the whole experience was this voice in my head that was like, but you still don't have a job, Tim. And so I enjoyed it to the extent I could, but like what I really wanted was a career. And an award is nice, but it's not a career. So that was kind of the next frontier for me.